You're muted, Jeremy, just so you know. You don't want to talk? Unmute yourself.
We good now?
There we
There
go.
he is.
Now we
All
can
right,
hear it.
good. I'm an amateur at this stuff.
All right. You're an amateur?
Yeah, I'm not into.
Yes.
I don't do Zoom calls too often, so
Yeah. I do too many of them.
yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, my goal this year is to do 50% less Zoom hours. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off, but that's my goal for 2024.
Nice. Very nice. Well, we're gonna wait till a few more minutes till some chaps maybe jump on or not. Yeah. All right. Well, it's 11:04 here in Los Angeles. Same time zone as Steve. But Jeremy, I'm guessing it's like 1 or
2:04.
12. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
In Boston?
Yeah, 2:04 p.m.
Nice. How was your morning?
It was non-existent. I got off work at 8 a.m. and I'm going back to work at 4 p.m.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's
you're
no.
going back.
I just woke up
Wait.
probably 45 minutes ago. I got to work in a little under 2 hours.
Well, shit. Well, thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, it's been a while. I figured there's really no excuse. 2 p.m. works perfect for me. I gotta leave here at 3:30, which is in 80 minutes. So this is a good opportunity to catch up with you guys and hear what's going on with you, see where the journey's gone, the stories, that sort of thing.
Right. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you.
No,
I was on mute.
yeah, I got it.
Yeah. We're just waiting a few more minutes to kind of have people jump on here. Everybody's doing their own thing. It is only 5 after the hour, so I'll allow it.
Very gracious.
I try to be. It's not usually my forte. But so we'll give them a few more minutes. It's finally cold here in Los Angeles, like windy and cold, finally.
Does that mean it hit 55 or so? Or what does that mean exactly for
Actually you're right, bro. We had 45 as the low, and now it's
wow.
like gonna be like 60s all week with a little high of 73. There was some wind chill factor. I mean, so
Yeah.
I would imagine people from the East Coast come here and just take off their clothes and go, "Oh, this is great." Damn. I don't know what it's like to live in cold weather outside of skiing for a few days out of the year. So
Yeah. It is. I remember being in SoCal one time and the radio forecaster said it's literally freezing outside. And it was, I don't know, if it was 45 or 50. I was like, it's technically not literally freezing by any definition, but your weather is pretty nice most of the time.
we're so lucky this weather in California. We have no idea what the wind chill factor is at all. We're just fucking anything below 70. It's like, oh my God, get your coats.
Could be dangerous. Yep.
There is a movie a long time back, a Steve Martin movie called LA Story. And he was a weather guy in LA. And he said his job was basically to report that it was 72 degrees and sunny every day. Except he did this one report when, like a man on the street report, when it went down to a frosty 55 degrees. He's like, "Oh, ma'am, how did you cope? How did you survive?" "Well, I put the cat inside." That was about it.
Yep.
Fucking put the cat inside. Jesus Christ. All right.
Steve,
Well,
Steve, are you in Oregon? Or anyways.
Yeah, I'm up here in Portland, where it's living up to our reputation of gray and dreary. Yay!
Right
yeah,
on.
I heard you had a ton of rain. Still coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We got one of those. What do they call them? The pineapple expresses. So it
Mhm.
warmed up for a few days and just rained buckets, and then
Mm.
then it cleared up for a day, and then it got cold, and then now it's like it's classic 42 and raining.
Nice.
We're the anti-LA during the winter.
Yeah. Anti. All right. We're going to start this off here. So, first of all, welcome for joining us. If this is your first time, this is the last meeting of the year. You made it. Good job checking in and getting a little bit of some relief in the next, looks like about 42 minutes. So my name is Christopher Velona. I'm the director at Project Sebastian. Angel Aid is our partner here, as we have hosted these men's rare health meetings, mental health meetings. It's just a bunch of guys getting on here and just talking and checking in. Sometimes we do topic-based meetings, and sometimes we just chit chat. So this is your first time, welcome. If not, welcome back. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around the room. We're going to introduce ourselves and just kind of where do we live? What's your name? How old you are? How much you weigh? What you wearing? All that good shit. And talk about your disease category if you want, and what brought you here to the meeting. So I'll go first. I'm a father of a rare disease young man. He's 20 years young. His name is Sebastian. He is suffering from Batten disease. It's an incurable, no treatment, no cure type disease. It's laden with fun stuff like seizures and all good stuff that the brain is slowly dying. And that's because there's a buildup of toxins that cannot be removed. He's missing a few enzymes that move out the trash. And so he's debilitating slowly over the years. And we're just living one day at a time and enjoying what we have left and making every day fun. I'm also director of my own foundation called Project Sebastian. In the beginning, it was to raise awareness for Batten disease, for monies and cures and treatments. And we realized after going through a few years of fighting everything and everyone to get treatments and clinical trials, we decided to step back and offer a different type of support. Since the money couldn't be used for clinical trials, we put it into a therapeutic session. So we offer free mental health evaluations, as well as we partner with CSG Consulting to help with addiction-based families that are struggling with disease due to the condition of their children, where they seek other methods to cope, such as drugs and alcohol. That's pretty much what I do. I enjoy being of service, and I'm happy to be here today. So I'm just going to go clockwise on my screen. So the next up I have is Jeremy.
My name is Jeremy DeRozier. I'm from Norton, Massachusetts. We're about 2 towns away from Foxborough, which is where the Patriots play and where the current Army-Navy game is being held. I am 42 years old. I'm a Taunton police officer, so I work in the city that's next to the town I live in. So I sort of don't eat where I shit, per se. I've been doing that for 10 years. I like the job a lot. It's certainly changed, but it's one of my coping mechanisms is helping others and being told I'm a fucking pig every other shift, which helps. So
Yes.
That's my occupation. My daughter's name is Aubriella DeRozier. She would be 8 years old. She had mitochondrial disease, and under that is a fuel energy depleting disease that carries a lack of energy, muscle tone, and significant seizure activity in the brain. She started to go downhill approximately 5 years ago with her health and wellness, and it resulted in her passing away 2 years ago from October at the age of 6. So she had passed away from that disease at the age of 6 2 years ago. We're still pretty numb to that passing, even though 2 years have elapsed. I don't think we've properly grieved it. My wife and I sort of live off the fact that would we rather have a child that was in that significant amount of pain deteriorating on earth, or would we rather have her healthy, happy, and in heaven? So we sort of try to think of it from that perspective. And obviously we take the latter of the two. So Aubrielle has been passed for 2 years now. My son Bryce has the same exact disease, mitochondrial disease, the same exact variation. So if you think of mitochondrial disease, a huge umbrella, then it gets broken down to smaller variations. And they both had Alpers and POLG, POLG. Those are the worst of the worst. There's not a worse sort of variation or setting underneath mitochondrial disease. He suffered a major seizure when he was 11 months old. So if you looked at him from day 1 to 11 months, he was a typical normal child. Major seizure at 11 months, and then ended up passing away 5 months later at the age of 16 months. Same exact scenario. It's just with both children passing, we went through the struggles, and we were in Boston, so we have the best of the best when it comes to the hospitals. We got to see a significant amount of cracks in some of the most elite hospitals that we've been to. Everything was insurance driven. So I was extremely angry and frustrated for such a long time. There was times where I almost laid in front of the crib to prevent them from going to a rehab or something to that tune, because they were not well enough to rehab. So I was a very angry person for a long time. Very, very challenging to be in the best group of people when it comes to doctors and nurses and see all these epic failures. So he passed away 5 years ago. So those were our first two children. Now we have another child, which is sort of a miracle baby. His name's Kyler. So it's Aubriella, Bryce, and Kyler with a C. He's 13 months old. He was sort of not planned. Obviously, it was a long night of Pinot Grigio. It turned into 9 months later having him. And we were very scared. So we sort of weighed out our options. Do we want to go deal with this again or not? Or, some of those weird words came up with, like, should we abort this? My wife made a good point. She's a big advocate for mitochondrial disease. She goes, let's see this through. He's meant to be here. Let's see it through. And I said, absolutely. So we did that. And he's 13 months old, and he's just a carrier of the disease. He doesn't have the disease like our other two kids had, where they were full blown with some significant variations. So far, so good with him, 13 months old. We do have a MRI scheduled for January 31st up at Children's Hospital in Boston. Little concerning, but not sure why. Everything seems normal. So I think maybe the staff wants to take the most amount of precautions with our kids, seeing that we've gone through two of the worst case scenarios. So we're anxious to see what comes out of that, because he's already had 2 MRIs in the past and nothing's came out of that. So I'm not sure what they're seeing or what's going on. I'm positive, certainly not deflated in any way, shape, or form, but my wife's starting to point out some things that seem similar to the past incidences. So I'm not sure what to come out of that, but he's happy and he's having a blast. He's actually given us a whole nother reason to live. Before, when both kids were passed, we were just alive, not living. So he's certainly brought us joy. I feel bad for the other two, because I feel like I'm playing with my son and thinking of him and talking about him, but I feel like I put them to the side, even though they're not present. So I think I need to step it up and start to say their name more often each day and incorporate them, because it's tough to talk to people that don't have a deceased child, because they almost run away from you as if like we killed them. So I want to step it up and incorporate their life and celebrate them as if they're still around, because they deserve it. And that's really it for me. I'm sorry if that took a while, but 3 kids.
Great.
Yeah, thank you for that. Wow.
Awesome. Go ahead, Andrew. You're up.
Oh, is it? Okay. Sorry, I just appreciated that from Jeremy. So yeah. Andrew Hoffman. I joined one of these a couple months ago. I think I missed the last one. I have 3 children. Madeline, who's age 9, Peter, age 6, and then my wife and I just a week and a day ago had a third. So we're in the thick of it. If you see circles under my eyes, I am sleepless. But because we got a newborn at home, which is great. My son Peter has mucopolysaccharidosis type 2, or Hunter syndrome, which is a lysosomal storage disease where he lacks an enzyme that is needed to take away, to break down and take away waste products, complex carbohydrates in the cells, and they build up in the body and the brain. And he was diagnosed when he was just shy of 2 years old, and he went through a bone marrow transplant at UC San Francisco, UCSF, which is just pretty intensive inpatient. And then he is now part of a clinical trial through the UCSF system with hospitals as well. Not curative, but they're trying to find curative treatments. And so there are a couple different forms of the disease, and he has the neuronopathic or more severe form, which the disease trajectory is that it leads to buildup of these glycosaminoglycans or GAGs in the brain and in the body, and progressively debilitating disease. And the traditional disease progression would be life expectancy of 10 to 15 years. With the transplant and with the trial, we're seeing that he is more cognitively intact, and his body's doing better than we've seen in other children, like really well. Now he still has a 101.8 at school and whatnot, so not curative, but much better than what we've seen in the natural history of the disease, which we're thankful for. But he has to go to the hospital for a full day every week, and and he has a ton of therapies and things. But on the grand scheme, thankful. And then my wife and I have just gone through a few years of fertility treatments and whatnot with we wanted to have another. So we're very thankful and feel very blessed to have a baby girl. And the disease affects boys, but not girls, because it's X-linked in terms of the chromosomes. So thankful for that as well. And yeah, it's things that, it's just a lot with rare disease. There's so much care that's needed. My daughter's actually right now at kind of a therapy support group for siblings of children with rare diseases, because it affects the siblings too. And Jeremy, I mean, even as I say that, I think, I even just say that humbly, like, I feel doubly thankful to have a daughter who it doesn't have the disease, and and a new daughter who doesn't. So my heart's in, I don't know. I just feel for you and your wife and what y'all have gone through, and I'm doubly thankful. And I also just appreciate you sharing. And it's, all of us have hard journeys. So anyways, I'll pause there, but yeah, it's nice to connect with folks who kind of get it. And there's a lot of tough stuff in life.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
Steve, still with us? Or are you multitasking?
Yeah. I'm still multitasking, but I'm with you. I just wanted to say, Jeremy, you never have to apologize for talking about what's going on or taking too long. Yeah. So Steve, August, I'm up here in Portland, Oregon. Met Jeremy and Chris at the June Raregivers Men's Retreat. Have a 21-year-old named Cosmo who has over the last 5 years suffered from the biggest malady has been the spinal CSF leak that went undiagnosed for 2 years. Got them in a pretty dark place. Fortunately, that was patched in 2022. Then that patch failed in November of last year. We were down in LA on January this year to get another patch, which was a challenging trip and a challenging procedure, but they it worked. So the good news is they're still patched. So they've made it a year since their last patch failed. So that's the good news. It's been they have mast cell activation syndrome as well as hypermobility spectrum disorder. So and they've had a lot of challenges in recovery and rehab and some neuro issues as well. But I would say that we're like this week. I think they had their one of their best 4-day stretches. They actually made their own pizza. They haven't been able to kind of like make their own food or do anything like that. So still a long way to go, but and it's still a lot of caregiving. Like we still put on their shoes and stuff, and yeah, it's still a lot of constant support, but it's still better than what it was. So yeah, I think that's the update from here. We're almost back fully. We're back in our house. We had mold earlier this year in our house, and we had to live in a hotel for about 4 months. And I think next week will be just about the last bit of work to get us fully back together. We're still just recovering from that chaos as well. So yeah, that's the report from here.
I think last I caught up with you, you were also you were not even at the hotel because you had COVID, I think, as well, or something like that. So
yeah, it was
recovered?
September. Yeah, I
Was it?
recovered.
Okay. Yeah.
My COVID wasn't so bad, but it did come back. It was like, oh, I got tested. Oh, I have COVID all of a sudden, and then I had like 2 really like, okay, I'm not well and I can't do shit days, and just sort of had to just rest the whole time. And then I was like, oh, I feel better again. And then about 5 days later, 6 days later, it kind of came back again. Not at the same level, but just kind of, oh, I'm not all the way out of this. But yeah, have recovered from that now. So yeah, it's been a year on the stuff going on. So
Yeah.
we're really hoping that 2024 is maybe a little less exciting than 2023.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for that check-in, guys. I appreciate it. Now we get to know a little bit more about everybody. Obviously dealing with a few different disease categories and some loss. It's always hard to hear that. But I know Jeremy is strong and enjoyed meeting him earlier this year. And I'm glad that you're here, Jeremy.
Oh, thank you.
I
And I'm
won't
sorry
pretend
for
to-
I wish I could have attended more in the past. Just, like felt like we
That's
had
all right.
a really good bond with the whole group, and I still want to be catching up with guys, face, through Zoom and stuff like that if I can, versus sometimes
Sure.
text and stuff like that. So
Yeah, no, it's all good. We're glad you're here. I was saying I'll never pretend to understand what the loss is of a child. I'm not there, and but I'm always willing to just listen and just extend the hand or a brotherly hug, even though Boston to Los Angeles.
yeah, 3,100 miles away.
Yeah, I have long arms. So today's topic is willingness. And before we get into another the thing of the caregiver map, but just wanted to talk to you guys about being here. First of all, appreciate you showing up. You were willing just to kind of take some time out to understand what this was all about, or if you just wanted to take a break. I see that Andrew's in his car. The cop is getting ready for his next shift, and Steve is multitasking as always. So, and I'm here in Command Central, Project Sebastian headquarters. Willingness is very, very different for everybody. And if you were to look up willingness, there are like several different types of definitions depending on which book you look at or what people have, chosen to tell you or to teach you. That if you look at just what is the Cambridge Dictionary, will tell you that willingness is the quality of being happy to do something if it is needed. And other people would say that willingness is something that we are willing to show up for, or to have some sense of, being prepared, finally taking a step towards being prepared and being willing to do something different. I kind of just want to ask you guys each what you think willingness is, not pertaining to your illness or your disease category or your life. Just what is, when someone says, "Hey, are you willing?" What does that mean to you? Steve August, I want to hear what you think willingness is.
Oh, willingness. It's an interesting concept. I feel like it works at two levels, like what you say and what you do. Like you can say, "I don't want to do this," and you do it. That means you're willing, even though you've expressed that you're not. I think sometimes I was talking to a friend about I hadn't talked to him in like a few years, an old person, acquaintance I knew, and I hadn't talked to him in a few years. And so he didn't know what we had been going through. And I kind of told him the whole story. And he's like, "Wow, dude, I would have been out of there." Like, what? It's like, no, it's like, he said, you're like a superhero. I was like, no, I just did what you got to do. Like, that's what you do. When you're a father, you support your kid. That's like, what are the other options? He's like, "I don't know if I could have done it." So I think there's, sometimes we just take the willingness for granted in some ways, because it never occurs to us not to be willing on certain things, right? And sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for that.
That's
that make
true.
sense?
Andrew? Yeah, it does. Andrew, what do you think willingness means?
Yeah. Now, building off that, in my head recently, I've been trying to figure out the blend of sort of like taking time for myself versus various family burdens. I mentioned we have a newborn right now, so actually I'm going to probably go off video in a little bit here. I'm parked near a park, and I'm going to go for a little walk while we talk. So not multitasking in the sense of getting work done, but trying to get a little bit of sunshine in my day before I go back to changing diapers and picking my daughter up from this group, and trying to keep my over exuberant 6-year-old non-neurotypical son from throwing things at the baby or turning the bassinet over, which is what we're dealing with in our home right now, which is in a certain sense a fun problem to have, but also a tiring problem to have. So willingness, yeah, I think of it as like we all do. We show up to be there for our families and for our children. I think of willingness a little bit maybe more positively, in the sense of willingness is also it's not just being willing to, but I don't know, wanting to be of service. I think of it a little bit in that sense as well. My mental model of life is not that it should be easy street, but that we should find good challenges. So on my better days, I think sometimes I don't understand why God set the world up the way that he did, but sometimes I think maybe that there's something formative in this, or that there are some, I don't know, some light at the end, some sunshine. And then on my worst days, I think I'm just running with no margins, and don't kind of know how to sustain myself amidst all the crazy. So I don't know. I don't think that's a very coherent answer, but that's where my thoughts are right now.
Sounds to me like you got a sleep deprived answer.
Yeah,
Jeremy, what are you thinking,
I would
man?
say opting to perform, whether you're mentally or physically wanting to, or both, or one or the other. So it's opting to perform. You could have a willingness, even though you physically probably don't want to or mentally don't care to, you're still opting to perform.
It's always it's true. A lot of people are forced into a situation they're not so willing, and then there are people that are just willing to just jump in, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, like you could think of willingness like I could ask my dad if he, "Hey dad, you mind helping me move 2 couches out of my living room?" He'd say yes physically, like mentally, yes. Physically, I'm sure you'd say no, because he's 70, but so that's what I sort of think, that he was opting to perform, but one of physically he probably is saying no, but mentally he's saying yes. You know what I mean? But he'd still do it.
Yeah, I like that, because it's like we say yes, and then it's like, can we fulfill that? And just showing up just is a great sign of willingness.
Yeah, it's
Even
spot on. You couldn't have said that any better.
Yeah, I mean, my dad used to simply say, he says, the whole concept about offering help is to just say the words. You may not get, and you may not be received, but sometimes people just want to hear the fact that you're there. Like, if you're offering to help, they may say no thank you, or if you offer to buy something, they say no thank you. Just the fact that you offered shares great respect in relationships, and the first relationship is yourself, right? So if we respect ourselves enough to like put ourselves out there to extend the hand and to simply say, I want to help, I want to be there for you. Oftentimes we get disappointed if we don't get to. I think Steve was alluding to that. That's expectations, which are nothing but planned disappointments at times. And so I have to check my own self about that, because I have expectations. But I'm glad to see that you guys put a lot of positivity in that actual word, because it is, to me, a very positive word. In my other line of business, in sober coaching, people are just not willing to even look at the concept of getting sober, but they're in these meetings, they're in these groups like we're on now, where they basically are curious, and they are like wondering, why are these people happy, why are they laughing, why are they making fun of others and stuff like that, and sobriety and stuff like that, and remembering this journey of debacle. And one of my favorite sayings is like, you talk to these guys, hey, are you willing to be willing? And they kind of like look at you funny, like, are you willing to entertain the fact that you could be willing to do something different? And then that kind of sinks in. I always try to help people to understand that just because you're willing doesn't mean you need to go full tilt. You could just tread lightly and stick your toes in the water a little bit to see if you like it, and then you can move on. So really glad that you three men actually share the same respect of that willingness, that is just like, it's a positive experience. It doesn't have to be a negative. So I know a lot of guys that jump at the chance to be willing to help others, or be willing to move a couch. I got rid of my pickup truck because I got tired of helping people. Chris got a truck, he can move us. So but I'm glad that you guys are here. Kind of want to change it up a little bit and talk about Angel Aid. And as you know, this great organization provides a lot of services for the caregivers. This is a caregivers type of service network where we help the caregivers, and we are the caregivers as men. We're helping our children. We're helping maybe our father in the hours of need, right? I am always going to be a caregiver until I'm not on this planet anymore. That's just who I am, so they wanted us to look at this map. I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and I want you guys to see this. Let's see. Let me know. Do you see my desktop? Let me know. It's running a little slow over here. Just let me know when you see my desktop. You got it?
It's still doing the spinning circle thing. Oh, now we got it.
All right. So now you should be able to see the full map, right? Okay. This is the Raregivers emotional journey map. We had a little bit of a
seeing your
taste of this.
inbox, dude.
We see email. Oh, there it is.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah. It's slow over here, dude. Sorry. So you should have that Raregivers map. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes?
We see it.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Great. So we got a little bit of a taste of this on this retreat. If you joined us over there at the Barrett Ranch. But this is something that, Crystal, who is the CEO of Angel Aids, wanted us to kind of discuss And some of the questions that she wanted us to talk about is like, hey, do you guys think that you guys could talk a little bit about this, for about whatever you see here and how it may apply or not apply to your journey or your current life, So as you can see, it's pretty cool. The one thing that I noticed right away was this part right up here, this everyday stressors, because every day I'm fucking stressed about something, right? So there's these guide points of life versus medical, these different pathways, obviously. So number one, noticing the changes, something isn't right. There's a desire for diagnosis and engaging the healthcare bureaucracy, lack of disease-specific information, fear, anxiety, shame, and savior complex. Now, these numbers of different types of feelings are going to obviously pertain to the children or the adults in your life that you're caring for. So let me know if any of these things you can recognize. Number two, adjusting diagnostic journey, managing the symptoms, learning about genetics, lack of treatment, complex care coordination, overwhelmingness, fatigue, and again, hero complex. Number three, shifting responsibilities, your role of strain, the identity, learning about this disease, becoming the expert, the advocate, need to learn nursing skills, resistant to the role of expert. And then number four, full-time care. It's a cost of time, loss of income. How does that, impact your relationships? How does it impact the rest of the family? Your other children, the siblings, the spouse, family, friends, colleagues. Your need for seeking social support. How much isolation, insecurity as you become the advocate do you find yourself in? End of life treatment, acknowledgement, preparation, bereavement, different stages of grief, such as denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. You have to become the navigator. And then number six, finding the meaning, redefining the identity, processing the trauma, reflecting back, exploring the purposes, possibly stepping back in and giving back, dealing with the bitterness, such as enlightenment, recovery, empathy, and possibly becoming an angel. I don't know anything about that. You can also see that there are other stuff that's outside of this map on the other right side of the map or left side, depending on how your screen is. Self-care, including skill building, having counseling, therapy sessions, you getting emotional support. What do your social connections look like? Are you getting enough physical exercise? Are you mindful of your own body? Are you getting enough nutrition? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you connecting with something like nature? Basically, this emotional the emotional journey map is a cycle of hope and grief for caregivers, patients, and professionals. It was designed as a collaboration of many different people, many different organizations. As you can see, that this is kind of like an outline for a lot of people going through a lot of different emotional changes throughout their journey from diagnosis to death. So if you look at all the numbers 1 through 6, is there anyone that wants to talk about how you feel about any one of those numbers? And is this accurate to you in your life currently? I'll wait. I know it's a lot to take in.
I can go. Like,
All right, Steve.
I definitely remember the noticing the changes and the adjusting and trying to find the diagnosis and the shifting responsibilities. That feels like that's steps we're through, and we're in the full-time care. I think the thing that's beyond the everyday stressors or the extra everyday stressors, like having to deal with our mold issues and stuff like that, is that for whatever reason right now, well, I guess it's pretty obvious because we had to go through a lot of our rainy day fund to get through this year. And it's the kind of ongoing financial, I'm trying to make that out on my phone. What is it? Navigation. Which, I mean, overall we're fine. It's just like, so I had the best year in my business, and yet I look at it, I'm like, oh shit, like basically the health issues, the house issues, it just seems like it's just this never ending kind of like vacuum. So and it might just be at this point of time and just being tired from a long week of work, but uh just looking up and looking at the, you know, having worked real hard for the year and then looking up and just being like, Jesus, we just got cleaned out. Um, so um, that's the one that sort of that jumped out at me, that and the kind of full-time care, you know, because I'm not the lead caregiver, my wife is. But you know, it's always there. Like we haven't been able to go out um, during this stretch, and we were living separately for this stretch where they were at the hotel and I was home for a while. And so I guess that those are the things that are, and I'm definitely not as in shape as I was just because of all the chaos this year. So I don't know. That's just the stuff that hit me, was just that point of navigating that stuff in the full time care.
I can imagine that was really difficult for you, Steve, because I know we were chatting on WhatsApp for a while, and we actually had a couple calls about it was just like one hit after another. You know, you're starting to climb out of that hole, and all of a sudden you get bam, bam, bam back down. So it's pretty good how you were climbing and you just kept going. That's good. It's good. It's resilience. You know, they say that 95% of us lose that resilience after being a child, but I think that once we really dig down deep, we can really reapply that. So props to you, brother.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to say about this map? It's okay if you don't want to talk about it. I just wanted to share this with you because I think it's pretty cool. I can definitely, look at this and say, yeah, I did that. I feel that way. I went there. You know what I'm saying? So it's a pretty good little tool to have conversations with, you know, on your own with your family, maybe, or if you have another support group, you can like show this to somebody and say, hey, man, let's talk about this because I go through this. Does anybody else go through this? This is where we find commonalities, right? This is where we find, you know, bonding exercises where people are no longer, you know, we don't understand, and you don't have a whole lot of relationships. You know, here's a map. May not be your guide to everything, but it's a great starting point to help talk through a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit in this map that's fucking pissing me off because it's triggering. And I'm probably sure that it could be helpful. It could be helpful for a lot of people who don't understand rare disease, who don't understand regular disease, don't understand special needs kids, don't understand, you know, loss of life with children. So
Yeah,
kudos
Chris,
to you, Crystal.
I'll step in if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I've taken a step. If this was chutes and ladders, I think I've been through each one of these. You know, and I could give you pros and cons for each one of them. And the word trigger that you used is a word that my wife and I often use because, like, even with this MRI coming up, it triggers us because each one of our other two kids had MRIs, and we could see the end, you know, the end result of those two children. You know, although they're healthy and healed now, you know, it's like we're triggered because we're going back to the same place to do similar things when the end result was, you know, them passing away. So, you know, when it comes to some of the things with any child, we're getting triggered again as a result of the neuro doctor saying we want to do another MRI. And each time they do an MRI on our kids, they put them out, you know. And we joked one time, it wasn't a joke, but we, you know, with Bryce, when he got put out for his MRI, I was holding him and he felt like a dead little boy, you know. And I'm like, this isn't normal. Like he's alive, but he's dead, you know, like, cause I'm carrying him. And sure enough, you know, the 5 months later, he actually passed away. And it was just surreal that, like, and then we have to go through that again with our son Kyler, January 31st for some precautionary, but we will be triggered because we're going to be in that same room, that same hospital, doing a similar activity that our other two kids had. And so when it comes to being triggered, that's what we have coming up. We'll try to feed off one another and work as a unit, my wife and I, if I see that, like, if she's better at one thing, I'll step back. And if I'm better at something at the hospital, she'll step back. You know what I mean? So that's, I'd say, the shifting responsibilities, full-time care. My wife is a full-time stay-at-home mother for our son, and I work all the hours. Thankfully, I can sort of write my own checks when it comes to work where I work. So I can work a lot or a little. And then I think, depending on this MRI, we might be adjusting our diagnosis scenario, because we had genetic testing. He's just a carrier. And now we have other things popping up. Well, what the hell's happening now? Like, what is going on that, you made us breathe fresh air once you said he's just a carrier. There's no issue. And now we got to have this precautionary MRI, which, MRI on a child it's not 100%. They wake up, you know what I mean? So it's one of those, we're not necessarily noticing changes. We feel like he's behind. And I always say DeRoches are always behind. But not to the point where there's red flags going off in our eyes, or what we think. End of life. I hope that's a category or topic that I hope you guys never hit number 5. And I'm not going to take up time telling you'd have to hit number 5 for me to, if you want to talk one-on-one about number 5, because I'm hoping that you guys all stop at number 4, or preferably number 3, but I think some of you are at 4. So I'm hoping that things turn around for everyone here. And then finding meaning is what I would harp on, number 6. Even though our 2 kids passed away from mitochondrial disease, after going to the retreat with Chris and Steve, I find myself wanting to take part in more events like that. I'm not worried about my high school friends. They stop in and we catch up at the local, restaurant or pub. I want to spend more time with people that are walking a dark hallway, or walking or navigating through a meandering path of medical complexities. So since we went to that, the Barrett Ranch, we were also invited to a place up in Maine. It was a retreat for all grieving parents. So there was 5 families there in this big house, and each one of us had lost a child or 2. And another great bonding experience. It was awesome. And to hear their stories, and, to see the journeys they've been on, and they were all quite similar, even though all of our kids had different diseases and have passed away from something different. So my thing is, if I see a group of kids or even a kid, I'm always friendly with them. But when I see a kid that I can tell that has more going on, would be deemed as not normal or medically complex, I try to spend more time, and I try to be more involved with them, whether I'm at work or not. Case in point, there was a family that was at a resort we were at down the Cape Cod, Mass. They had a significantly medically complex child. They were struggling to get this child up and around, to navigate around the pool and stuff. So I went to the parents and I just said, "Hey, I'd like to meet your kid, and I'd like to buy both of you a drink." They were so appreciative, but like, just passing that message on, that like, I know what you're going through, and if if you need something and I'm in close proximity, I definitely want to help you, whether it's lifting the front end of this wheelchair or getting you a beverage so you can relax for a few minutes. So that's sort of, that's where I'm finding my meaning, because I've been there and done that. And you get a lot of dirty looks, and why would they bring them here? And, she shouldn't be here, like, meaning your child that's significantly complex. No, you should be everywhere you want to be, and take in every moment that you want to take in, given the circumstances. There's going to be times where, like, i.e. hospice, you just can't. So live in the moment and make the best of it. Don't let the outside noise, make you stray away from your goals and your happiness with your child. So I just wanted to jump in and say that.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm appreciative, says Andrew, of a group like this with people who are on different places in the journey, because Jeremy, I think as much as we want or don't want it, we're probably all going through all 5 stages of this. And so people like you, I don't know how it feels to you. I'm sure it doesn't feel like it's not a journey. You don't want to go through all 5 stages, but your ability to speak to all 5 and what that feels like to you is actually of enormous benefit to those of us who are kind of scared to think about what 4 and 5 look like and what 5 looks like. So it's a blessing. So I appreciate you just bringing some of that up. Yeah. So I'm walking. So sorry if I'm a little breathless.
No, it's okay. Yeah. And that, that's, I think Chris and Steve will tell you that that was sort of the bond that we had out there in Orange, California. Is like these guys were and are still going through the suck where I had gone through it, and they're looking at me like, how you're strong. I'm literally going on a plane back home to a healthy child. These guys are going back to this, quote unquote, the suck, the stress, the financial burden, like, is this noise going to kick off this seizure? Is what's good, living in the moment. So like, I applaud you guys for being strong. Your day in and day out operations as a family, as in life, are far more challenging than mine. At this time. So I applaud you guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's all hard, but your perspective's impressive. Just to speak to the map briefly, I feel like I'm somewhere between 3 and 4, and something I'm struggling with right now with my wife. And my wife's a pediatrician, which has been of enormous benefit as we've been navigating rare disease. And she's a great advocate. And I work in a business at a startup and working on clean energy and climate work. But it was interesting, Jeremy, you talking about just you see a child who's medically complex and you want to help. Like, I'm stuck in my own head right now, and it's sort of like, what are we striving for? Like, I work really hard towards in my work, and then can't cure my son, and sometimes I think, why the fuck do we work so hard towards hitting some financial goal or hitting some company outcome when there's children with rare diseases? And like, I don't know, my mission, as I thought before my son's diagnosis, was around climate change and trying to do something about keeping us from overheating this planet we're on. And then you get a diagnosis like this and it throws everything up in the air. And so I find myself questioning sometimes, like, why am I working so hard towards something? I don't know, towards an outcome that feels sometimes like it's more financial, or I don't know, beats me. And then at the same time, it's not like you can just go around looking for children to help, and that can be what you do all the time. But I find like this sort of in the shifting responsibilities and in the sort of full burden part of that map, there's also a purpose question of like, well shit, this just reframed my whole world, and how do I think about the stuff that I need to focus on in my work or in family financials or things, and then also be doing all I can for my child. And then also just there's this sense of exhaustion a lot of the time. So like, even trying to think about, well, am I spending my time in the right places? And another tiredness on top of tirednesses. So that's where I'm just a little bit stuck in that right now. And as Christopher mentioned, I'm just tired too.
I was the same way. I think like, cause I Monday night quarterback, like, cause I worked, 60, 70 hours a week, I Monday night quarterback everything. Should I have been around more? But in reality, I'm paying for as much as I can to, we were living in children's hospital for 6 months. So paying for hotels and stuff. So it's going to be very challenging. You're always going to Monday night quarterback yourself and say, why did I do this when I could have done this? And just try to find a positive outlook, and you're going to get spread thin. Just try to keep your head up, because those that need you, the younger ones, they're watching, they're a sponge, they're absorbing this. It's gonna suck. You're gonna be upset. You're gonna have some frustration, just understand that, like I sort of live, that positive energy is going to activate constant elevation. So what drew me to Chris a lot at that retreat was he was so miserable, and I loved it because I was him at one point in time. So I was really drawn to him because I loved how miserable you were. Sadly, I'm sorry to say that, but I was in that miserable state at one point in time. So it really linked me, and I liked seeing that in someone else. If that sounds sarcastic, I apologize.
Keep coming back. You'll fucking see a lot of that. Keep coming back. Brother.
Yeah. So, I like these things. I wish I would have been to a few more prior to this, but the 2 p.m. time for me on the Eastern Coast is more beneficial than some of the other times.
Well, we will have to see what the future holds. Come to the top of the hour. This is where we say our goodbyes. But before I go, I just want to wish each and every one of you men a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And sending you nothing but joy and positive light and love and prayers. If you have a higher power, get on your knees and thank him or her or whatever religion you are in, or if it's just the energy of the sun behind you, Mr. Andrew. And I love you guys. Thanks for joining me here. You've helped me get through another hour because that's all I get, hour by hour. I'm dealing with a lot of this emotional crap. So adios, amigos. We'll see you next time. And,
it was good talking, everyone. Steve, great to see you. Chris, you as well. Andrew, very nice to meet you.
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah,
feel free
to see everybody.
Now, I also want to remind you, Steve is in charge of the WhatsApp cookie crew. So if you want to put your phone number for the WhatsApp there, Steve, in the chat.
Yeah, everybody here is in it.
Yeah, we're all on it.
We're all in it. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. My bad. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, thanks for stepping up and being willing to facilitate this. Speaking of willingness.
Yeah.
It's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure, boys. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I love checking in with you. I do. I'm happy I can make Jeremy's life a little bit more miserable.
No, you make it happy because how miserable you are.
Yeah.
It's nice, having people jump in the shit with you. It can be a nice thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, man. That's right. See, we are not alone. We just have to seek out our own method. There you go.
There it is.
All right, my friends.
All right, guys.
Have a wonderful weekend. Good luck in your shift,
care.
Jeremy. Don't hurt anybody.
No, I don't.
Unless they really deserve it. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right. See ya.